A monumental night for New York baseball. Juan Soto is officially a New York Met. Mets fans, we are going to be seeing this duo in Lindor and Soto for the foreseeable future. Let's get into what could be the next move offensively for the New York Mets as the winter meetings start up. What's up, Mets fans? It's your boy CP. Welcome back to the True Mets Talk podcast. We are talking Soto. I am grinning from ear to ear, as you should be too, unless you happen to be a Yankees fan stumbling upon this video. We are talking Soto to the Mets and the mega deal that has officially been agreed upon as of last night. The tide slowly shifting and the playing field leveling out in terms of the destination spot that the Mets are currently becoming and snowballing into alongside the Yankees. If you enjoy this content on this channel, the Juan Soto watch parties, these videos, the upcoming winter meetings watch parties that we're going to have starting tonight, please do hit the thumbs up button on this channel. Subscribe to the channel as well. Very close to 1,500 subscribers on the channel. I definitely appreciate all the support. It does mean a lot. And please, can I get an LGM in the chat, ladies and gentlemen? If you are excited, go to the comments section. Let me know your thoughts and feelings on this signing and the state of the New York Mets right now. Now that we know that Juan Soto is going to be in Queens for at least the next 5 seasons. You haven't heard, I'm not sure how you haven't heard, but if you haven't, 15 years, $765 million, Juan Soto to the Mets. Has a player opt out after the 5th year, but the Mets have the ability to void that. So it might as well be a club option from the way that I understand it. It's very tricky language in the contract if they up the AAV from $51 million to $55 million over the course of the preceding and following 10 years. So again, this is such a huge contract. It's historic. It passes the Ohtani contract in terms of total money. And let's not also act like the Yankees offer wasn't competitive and comparable. I know that there was about a $50 million total differential over the 15 years between the Mets offer and the Yankees offer. It was about $4 million difference AAV per year. Yankees offer was 16 years, $760 million. It was pretty competitive. So props to them. But again, 1 year of Juan Soto in a Yankees uniform clearly did not do enough in terms of making up that differential of that $50 million total of the contract value. Now, again, it's not only $765 million. There are escalators and incentives to get the total value of this contract up to $805 million, in addition to a $75 million signing bonus. Huge, monumental Steve Cohen. That's what you need to know. But let's talk about Juan Soto again before we get into the next move here. In a very limited sample size, Juan Soto has thoroughly enjoyed hitting at Citi Field. 35 games in his career, north of a 330 batting average, 12 home runs, and north of an 1100 OPS. We are going to be seeing Juan Soto mashing baseballs in Queens in a Mets uniform this time for a long time. Rejoice, Mets fans. It's here. And we've been having these discussions, or at least I've been having these discussions ever since he was a Washington National. And I know it wasn't feasible for the Nationals to trade him in division at that time. And I know the Padres, and I knew the Padres wanted to keep him out of the NL. But finally, the Mets and Steve Cohen get their way. Oh, I don't know how many times on this podcast I'm going to say Soto is a New York Met. I think I have to say it enough times for me to actually believe it, because I'm kind of like, this is like a dream situation. Am I dreaming? Are we dreaming? No, we're not. Soto's a New York Met. But look at the versatility of Juan Soto. We mentioned this in our Juan Soto watch party the other night before the signing actually went down. This is the reason why you go out and get Juan Soto. He is such a flexible hitter in the lineup for any team that he plays for. Now, again, we're primarily focused on 2, 3, 4 in the batting order, and his numbers aren't that different, to be honest with you. There's obviously a drop off a tad bit when you see 3 and 4 versus in the 2 spot. But again, anywhere you put Juan Soto in the lineup, he will succeed. And I'll get into a couple of variations here of a potential 2025 Mets lineup in just a second. But okay, let's get to the part of the podcast where you guys really came in here to listen to about what is the New York Mets' next move, because Juan Soto can't be it. He can't be it. That cannot be the only offensive addition that you have in this offseason, right? So what is the most logical thing to do for the New York Mets if you want to build a top 5 in your lineup to compete with the likes of the Dodgers and perhaps even the Braves and the Phillies, right? Because when you think about top 5 offenses with the top 5 guys, you think of those teams, particularly, right, the Los Angeles Dodgers. The Mets need to pivot to re-signing Pete Alonso. And I know there's going to be a lot of differences in opinions here. I know that there's a lot of this fan base that does not want Pete Alonso back because they are very worried about the trajectory of his career, especially what we saw in 2024. And I understand the clutch numbers and the runners in scoring position numbers were horrible in 2024. I made a standalone live stream breaking all that down from his Baseball Reference page about those numbers. And the clutch numbers were also down in 2023. The runners in scoring position numbers were better in 2023 than 2024, but the clutch numbers were also still down. But Juan Soto in this lineup now can make Pete Alonso exponentially better and potentially get him back to that 2022 version that we saw him have a career year in. And if you're trying to sell me that this is his worst career year, a 240 batting average, 34 home runs, 788 OPS. I mean, what are we doing here? That is a decent year, right? I get we're not talking advanced analytics here. We're talking about the general numbers. But again, if this was a down year with these numbers, can you imagine what a good year for Pete Alonso would look like alongside Juan Soto? Now, the other factor here is that the Mets are going to have a tough time re-signing Pete Alonso. That is a very well-known fact in which I truly believe as soon as that Juan Soto signing went down, David Stearns and Steve Cohen immediately probably picked up the phone and were like, love the deal. Thank you, Scott Boras. We want the next client of yours in Pete Alonso. So now we can start to talk about what the contract value of Pete Alonso is and potentially any pivot points beyond Pete Alonso that I'll get into here on this next slide after this one. But I am fully expecting with the way that these contracts are being given out and the magnitude of these contracts right now, that he is going to end up being the highest paid first baseman in the league. Again, whether you agree with it or not, given the production values in comparison to some of the other top first basemen, Vlad Guerrero Jr. and Freddie Freeman notably, that's a separate discussion. But the way that these contracts are filling out, Scott Boras is going to ensure that he is the highest paid first baseman, Pete Alonso, that is. Pete Alonso hired him for that very reason. So I'm proposing 7 years, $196 million. That's a nice even $28 million per year, which would get him up to being the highest paid first baseman. Would not shock me if the contract actually is higher than that and it starts with a 2. Now, anywhere between 6 to 8 years is valid for Pete Alonso. It's probably what he's looking for. I think 7 right there in the middle works perfectly. But the Mets are going to have a tough time because guess who is pissed off? Hal Steinbrenner and the Yankees are fuming right now. I would have to imagine. And what better retaliation move during these winter meetings than taking that money that they were offering for Juan Soto and him saying, no, thank you to, I'm going to go join the New York Mets, and then putting it into an effort that gives Pete Alonso a contract to stay in New York, but go to the other side of town. I really think that we could be gearing up for a bidding war 2.0 between the Mets and the Yankees for the services of Pete Alonso in a potential long-term deal. Now, I wouldn't rule out any opt-outs for Pete Alonso, and I also wouldn't rule out the off chance that, a team would sign him for like a 3-year deal with an opt-out after the first year, maybe a prove-it-year deal 2.0 for him to try to redeem himself. Again, that's very risky, especially when you take a look at the options on this market. Free agent-wise, it's Pete Alonso and Christian Walker, and then you have probably rentals in or 1-year deals, right, of Carlos Santana, Paul Goldschmidt, Anthony Rizzo, et cetera, right? But when you're talking about guys that are going to be making multi-year contracts in the first base category, it's Pete Alonso and basically Christian Walker, if I had to dumb it down to that. So it would be risky for Pete Alonso to take that short-term deal because someone's going to offer him a long-term deal, whether it's the Mets, Yankees, or any other team in this league, right? Who needs a first baseman? But look at the potential 2025 lineup combinations that these two players, and Juan Soto and Pete Alonso, would give you, right? This is going to be a huge discussion as we head closer to the 2025 season, especially spring training, let alone opening day. Where do you bat Juan Soto in comparison to Pete Alonso if both of these guys are on the 2025 New York Mets? I am firmly in the camp of maximizing Pete Alonso and knowing that Juan Soto is versatile, as we just saw in the previous slide, batting 2-3-4. Juan Soto needs to go behind Pete Alonso, and therefore that could alleviate some of the terrible approaches and swings that we saw out of Pete Alonso in 2024. I really do believe that. So if you're asking me what my preference is right here on the screen between left and right, my preference is going to be the right. But I understand the counter argument of Juan Soto needing to bat second or at least third and being in the top 3 to maximize his plate appearances over the course of an entire season. I do understand that. And obviously Soto was predominantly, from what I understand, batting in front of Aaron Judge in that 2-hole for the Yankees. Shohei Ohtani does the same thing. Actually, they batted Ohtani second and Freddie Freeman. So they're kind of switching back and forth there in LA. But again, 2-hole hitter of that magnitude, it makes sense, and it has become a new age philosophy. I am understanding of that. So a third lineup combination that I am not ruling out is Pete Alonso in the 2-hole behind Lindor. And Pete Alonso has had success in the 2-hole in his career so far, and then Juan Soto 3, Vientos 4, or Nemo 5. But I think that all Mets fans can agree that any lineup combination that you throw out there with these two guys is more likely than not going to be successful. And again, you take a look at the power. Lindor is a 30-plus home run candidate at the shortstop position, right? Juan Soto just gave you 40-plus in the Yankees uniform. Pete Alonso can give you 35, 40-plus at any minute. Vientos with 27? Just around there? In a full season, he hits 30-plus as well. Brandon Nimmo can get you 20-plus. This is a fantastic discussion to have, and it's a great problem to have, New York Mets fans, in terms of having these 5 guys and just trying to figure out a lineup from thereafter. But let's say the Yankees are successful or any other team is successful in signing Pete Alonso away from the New York Mets. This next name makes too much sense for me in more ways than not. And that is first baseman of the Tampa Bay Rays right now, Yandy Diaz. The first reason is that his skill set, his bat is very serviceable. Very serviceable. Especially in 2023, which was an all-star year from him, batting .330 with 22 home runs and a .932 OPS. Yes, the numbers went down a little bit in 2024, but even with a .281 batting average, 14 home runs, and a .341 on-base percentage, this could be a great pivot option for the New York Mets, especially given the second reason that his contract is very favorable to be flexible in 2026 when Vlad Guerrero Jr. hits the market. Now, a lot of Mets fans are talking about Vlad Guerrero Jr. right now. There is no way. And again, I've already promised I will pick one lucky winner to have a Vlad Guerrero Jr. jersey, Mets jersey, if they trade Vlad to the Mets. It's not happening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not even sure why I'm entertaining that discussion, but it's not happening. But on the off chance it does, there you go. There's my promise. Yandy Diaz would give you flexibility and production in the first year of the 2 years that he has associated with his contract, and then he gives you an option, right? Because there is a club option on that second year to exercise if the Mets are able to strike a deal with the Rays. And David Stearns, after taking over as president of baseball operations of the Mets, has shown a great willingness to trade with the Rays. Obviously not to this scale in terms of the magnitude of a player coming back from the Rays, but when you take a look at a team that has historically, quote unquote, fleeced other teams in terms of good deals for them, bad deals for the other team, David Stearns doesn't seem to care. I think David Stearns knows and understands how to evaluate true value, and he will not overpay if that's what another team is asking for. So this makes the most perfect sense in terms of a pivot point, because again, you have Yandy Diaz in the off chance that Pete Alonso walks. And again, it's greater than an off chance. It actually is, I wouldn't say likely, but really it's 50-50 in my mind if Pete Alonso comes back. I would like for it to happen, but it's 50-50. He gives you this option to be a first baseman for 2025, and you can exercise a club option if you want to pursue Vlad Guerrero, or you can go ahead and opt into that second year and just make Yandy Diaz a DH. Or he does have third base capabilities, so he can play third base and platoon with Vientos taking some reps at DH. This is a flexible signing. Again, it's not as fantastic of an outlook in terms of the magnitude of what your lineup can be, rather than if Pete Alonso was in it, but this is a good backup option, Mets fans. So let me know what you think in the comments section. Again, I know I'm rambling a little bit here in this episode. I apologize about that, but I am so very ecstatic about the state of the New York Mets. And guess what? This is the bottom line. You do not get Juan Soto if you don't plan on going for it through and through in terms of trying to compete with the Dodgers and actually beat them out to go into the World Series and potentially win one now that you have Juan Soto. You don't spend $765 million on a player to not go for it. And that goes for offense, and that goes for pitching as well. We have only seen the start, in my honest estimation, of what the Mets are going to do this offseason, whether it's via trade or whether it's via other free agent signings. Again, buckle up, Mets fans. Hit the thumbs up. If you enjoyed this podcast, if you enjoyed the excitement, we're bringing it on this channel all off season long and all in season long, because I am excited for the future of Mets baseball. Again, building to get back to that league championship series, and this time get into the World Series with the hopes of bringing a championship back to Queens. Let's go Mets. It's your boy CP. Peace out.
Thank you for watching the True Mets Talk podcast. Make sure you're tapping on that notifications button and checking out all the latest content on the channel. Thank you.